We're going to be discussing the new proposed changes to MCS guidance around the membership scheme and what this will mean for installers. We will be doing a Q&A at the end, but we'll waffle on for a bit of time and see where we go, and then we'll offer some questions out to the crowd. If there's anybody that wants to ask any questions, just raise your hand towards the end. Good little turnout today on a quieter day on the Thursday of installer. Everybody's a bit tired and emotional now, yeah?
Yeah.
How was the show, Ian? How's it been?
It's been busy but emotional. Yeah. I'll be ready for the train later, definitely. But
Yeah. Emma, it's a good day?
Yeah, no, I've had a great show. I mean, we're not standing, but going around and seeing everybody, it's just amazing and a real great buzz about it. I mean, last year we thought that was a great buzzy year, but this year has even exceeded that.
It's bigger and bigger every year, isn't it? And I don't think I've seen a boiler this year.
There's a hydrogen-ready one somewhere, but nobody knows where.
lurking somewhere.
As you probably already know, we got Emma Bohan of IMS Heat Pumps. Still IMS Heat Pumps? Yeah.
Definitely still IMS heat pump.
Yeah. Recently acquired.
Yeah, recently acquired by Home Tree. So we're all excited about the opportunities to get their gas clients off that gas and onto heat pump.
Excellent stuff. And of course the big cheese himself, Ian Rippin of MCS.
Big cheese?
Big cheese.
Oh.
You're the big cheese.
Wow.
So obviously we've been waiting a while for these kind of rework of the MCS guidance and systems. So I'm sure it's been a large body of work for you. How long have the team have been working on this, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, it has been a labour of love, really. We consulted on major changes to MCS last summer, and we put before the industry, based on industry feedback, we put quite a few ideas for MCS 2.0, the next MCS. And we were overwhelmed, frankly, with the amount of feedback. So lovers or haters, people did want to engage with our consultation, I'm pleased to say. So that was back in the summer. We published our response to all that feedback, and the majority of responders were installers. So that's our community we're trying to talk to. So we got that response back in September. And since September, we've been writing the new scheme, taking on board all that feedback. And now we're at the point where most of it is written and developed and has been in pilot, secret pilot.
Love a secret pilot.
I love a secret pilot. Yes. It implies, well, anyway, there you go. But maybe not so secret now. But we've been testing some of the concepts that are in the new scheme to make sure that they really work. Now we're preparing for launch, and we've announced that recently that it will go live in January 2025. The reason it's taken us a little bit longer is we've got to make sure that the certification bodies we work with are able to deploy it, and that there's some processes around that, appropriately so. So that's where we're at.
Cool. What was the outcome of the consultation? What were the big problems that everybody wanted to address?
I mean, Emma will tell you. I mean, some of the feedback on MCS today. I've got to be careful not to call it old MCS because it's still the MCS that is today. The feedback was that, this is paperwork heavy. This isn't always about what we refer to as delivered quality. So can we make the scheme more accessible? Can it focus on the outcome more? And the outcome is great installations that satisfy consumers, the industry grows. So MCS is more of an enabler, not a barrier. So lots around that, but also a great deal around consumer protection. And I think the current MCS and how it's configured doesn't always help consumers in partnership with installers. It doesn't help them get a solution to the problem they're raising. So a big focus on consumer protection in the new scheme.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sit here as the voice of the forum. And I'm going to say...
God.
Oh, yes. And I'm going to say, the forums say, MCS is useless when it comes to consumer. And so what is the new scheme going to be doing that's different in terms of the triangle of doom that it appears that we've currently got, where the consumers are passed between all of these different things, and MCS apparently does note.
Yeah, I mean, that is the feedback. So if you've got a problem as a consumer, one, you don't know how to complain, you don't know who to complain to, who's going to take responsibility for it? And so, you know, I might not use the triangle of doom analogy. Don't quote me on that, but I think there is this sense that the complaint is passed from pillar to post. Sometimes the installer's last to know. So in the new scheme, it'll be MCS. Just MCS will handle complaints centrally, and we'll work with an installer's chosen certification body. So by definition, what does that mean? It means that consumer code membership will be voluntary, and for some installers, code membership adds a lot of value. For some, it doesn't. So we are removing the mandatory requirement to be a member of HICE or REC, and we will centralize complaints. And this is something we have been piloting to really understand the more complex, long-standing complaints. I promise you, though, the first thing we'll always do is talk to the installer, because sometimes there are problem installers, a minority. There are also problem consumers. So we'll work with the installer, understand what the problem is, and move to remediate, not compensate. So that's the new MCS, inside MCS, my team.
So on that basis, again, coming back to the forums, if we're removing the need consumer code, does that mean that there's one less bit of administration and paperwork and all of the other stuff that is often pulled on the forums like a barrier for the installer? It's more money that we have to pay. You know, the gas fitters don't have to have workmanship warranty insurance. They don't have to have deposit protection. They don't have to have the additional fees and audits for a consumer code. Does that mean all of that's going?
Yes. So what it'll mean is you'll have a choice, Emma, and installers. If you want to be a code member, you can. The point is, we hear from installers joining MCS today, they get confused about which organization they're actually joining. And I would say, and it might sound a bit defensive, that MCS sort of gets the bad name. Well, my certification body isn't working with me in collaboration, and now I've got to talk to the consumer code, and they don't always align. So our job as MCS from January will be to remove some of that confusion, take control of complaints with the installer. So yes, we will remove all of that and the bureaucracy that comes with it. It's not helping installers, and it's not helping consumers. So we've come of age now. We really need to change that.
Well, you know, one of the things that is levelled across the heat pump industry is the additional cost placed on a heat pump installer as opposed to a fossil fuel boiler installer. And you know, that additional consumer code membership and the audits and all of the, you know, insurances that go around that, you know, it definitely feels unfair that should just fall on the heat pump installer.
I couldn't agree more. And so in the new scheme, we have a concept of risk-based assessments. So what we mean is that if you're an installer that's delivering well, and we're not hearing from you through complaints or outbound calling, your assessments through your CB are good, and your business is pretty running well, and the vast majority do. You know, if I don't know about you, it's probably a good thing. So if that's the case, then your assessment, the volume, the frequency of your assessment will go down. Now, the reverse is true. So if you've got problems, we're hearing about issues, and businesses do go through issues, then you're going to attract more assessment, and that's more cost. So for the first time, we are going to properly incentivize compliance. So do well, less costs. Start to cause issues, you're going to attract more of our attention and assessments.
With those guys that maybe, the firms that maybe are struggling and not delivering a good quality install, are you going to offer training or advice for those guys to kind of up their game, or what are you going to do there?
Certainly we'll be offering support to them, but if the issue, the root cause, and this is the problem at the moment, identifying the root cause of an issue, and that might be training, it might be you've lost control of your quality, you need a better process or a control around it, you're not supervising your installations, whatever the root cause is, under the new MCS, every non-conformity, that's the language of certification, you know, something's not right, you need to correct it and you need to prevent it. So I think we've been guilty over the last 15 years of focusing too much on just correcting this one instance, Mrs. Wiggins' install, let's fix that. We are concerned though that it never happens again. So how are you going to reassure us that, you know, it might be that Jane hasn't been trained or Fred hasn't been trained, we'll get them trained then, and let's see the delivered quality. So that focus on the outcome, less on your paperwork and back office.
I'll come to the forums and I will
The
forums.
You need to get off social media. Then.
Well, I know, but you know,
I can't go on it anymore.
I'm not surprised here. Don't look. Your name is taken in vain a lot. But no, the forums again say we are burdened by administration. I mean, you know, how many times do I have to show them where my purchase orders are for 4.5 washing machine valves? I mean, it's a joke. What has that got to do with the ability to install a good quality installation that's working for the homeowner? How does, you know, me being able to lay my hand quickly on a SIBSI design guide help my installer properly install that unvented cylinder? I mean, it's just baffling.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is baffling. And let's just dig down into delivered quality a little bit more. What do you actually mean by that? And how are you actually going to, I guess, prove that a system is quality?
So over the last few months, we've been trying to distill into an assessment criteria what constitutes delivered quality by technology. You know, it isn't just heat pumps, it's solar PV and others. So for the first time, MCS will prescribe what the assessment is. It has been down to certification bodies to determine that. We are prescribing what constitutes delivered quality. And it is mainly about the site, the installation that's in front of the assessor. So that's a first, that's in the new scheme. And so as a standard setting organisation, what we're driving for is consistency. And what we promise to do is be really open about that. No surprises. What is common sense, but also what constitutes delivered quality. And this will move over time. So my dream is that the issues we know, the common issues today, and the forums talk about them all the time, that in a year's time, they're not the issues. So we've raised standards, and that is really what we're about. We want to see great work all the time, so we're constantly raising the bar. So MCS will prescribe what is assessed, and we will tell installers, we'll provide a summary of what that is.
That you can give us any more like deeper detail now? Or is it going to be kind of closing the loop on how much energy it's using, it's SCOPs, it's...
Right, so there is the way the assessments have been written, and we will publish this soon, they are recognising the common issues, but also you've got to be compliant with the installation standard. So also behind the scenes, we've been decluttering the standard. So I think complexity is the enemy of quality. So if there are simple clauses, understandable clauses in the installation standard, but you've also got to get your promise to your customer right. So if you're making a promise through a design, we're interested in that too. So not necessarily about the running costs, but actually you've committed to your customer the performance of whatever it is, your solar PV or your heat pump. Is that happening? Is that delivered? So that's the point. If you remember nothing about what I'm saying, delivered quality is the very essence of what the new MCS is.
So does that mean, for example, a sole trader doesn't have to have a quarterly meeting with themselves to discuss the changes to their MCS? Or
I love them quarterly meetings with myself. Don't you?
Get a bit of time to yourself.
Yeah. Sit in front of it. No, that's,
you know, the whole view
that's
that
weird.
there's an entire market in services to help people keep files in order to pass the MCS audit at the moment. You know, are we saying that we're putting them out of business?
I mean, you might say that, but I couldn't possibly comment. I mean, you're right, because there is an industry that's grown up around some of the quality management systems, and it, you know, that might make sense to how you deliver quality every time if you're a large installer. But if you're a sole trader and you're a woman or a man in a van, then really, does it add up to delivered quality? So absolutely, we are removing that. What you've got to do, though, is evidence that you do have control of your quality, and we will issue guidance on what that is. So if it makes sense for you to have all of that stuff, have it. But if it doesn't, and you are doing your own installs or you've got a small team, then it needs to be commensurate with the size and complexity of what you're doing. So multi-locations, lots of subcontracting, big organization, yeah, absolutely. You need to have more robust controls, don't you? But if it's man in a van, it's different, and certainly
So you're
meetings.
going to treat us like grown-up business people who manage their own business processes in a manner that's concurrent with their business. Yes, yeah. You know, I doubt a business, or any business person here who employs more than 5 or 6 people doesn't have a way of having purchase orders or monitoring what they've ordered to sell. But to have it on a online portal and then checked by somebody from the certification body, just again doesn't help the G3 to be installed correctly.
She's good, isn't she?
He is good.
Absolutely. I think I would, as we go forward into the new MCS, we want more of a relationship directly with installers, and I promise you that experience is, well, you tell me, Emma. I mean, my team are really committed to the sector. We want to support it grow, and I think we're just trying to remove some of the nonsense, frankly, that's built up over 16 years, and it has grown in the telling. So let's understand what constitutes delivered quality, satisfied customers. What is that? It isn't about having a meeting over the breakfast table with your business partner, it's probably your husband or your wife. So I think let's get back to great installations and seeing the evidence of that. Now, if the evidence isn't there, and there are issues, then let's understand what's happened and gone wrong. And that might be that you're not in control of your delivery. So sorry to go on, but what is in the new MCS scheme is every single installation we would expect you to sign off, a technical supervisor, no more nominated technical people. There's somebody saying, you know what, this is a great work, take responsibility. Still the business is responsible, but we want to sort of elevate the professionalism, and so nominated technical person is part of the old world. That is quality management speak. What is it that makes a great install? Somebody needs to go, you know what, this is fine. I've checked this, and might use a junior team, but I've been to site, and so we'll be monitoring that. So it's not okay for Ian Rippin to sign off 10 installations in an afternoon, some in Glasgow and some in Clacton-on-Sea. That just doesn't work, does it? So let's just get back to basics.
Awesome. So what do you think generally then, Emma, about that whole revamp? Good thing.
I'm worried now.
Well, it is widely known that we are levelled with a burden of administration and additional costs over and above the fossil fuels. When the call is that we should be cheaper as an industry, we should start matching the install cost of a gas boiler, you have to factor in that we have additional costs that are foisted on us by the fact of the standards that we have in place. MCS has a cost, your consumer code has a cost, the insurances has a cost, having a system that can get ticked off on a checkbox has a cost, having a certification body has a cost. All of those costs that you don't see over here sticking gas boilers on the wall. So anything that brings that down to a more level playing field and removes a barrier for somebody who wants to get into the game, it can't come soon enough, can it?
No.
And right now, I don't think that the consumers are being well served by the current status quo. And so if it is going to create better journeys for the customer, better installations for the customer, a clearer route for if they have issues, you can't really moan about that, can you?
No. I mean, yeah.
I'm going to ask a question.
Go on.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say to people who say, bugger it all, let's scrap the law and open the market to everybody to install a heat?
That was actually my next question as well.
What do I say? You're mad. I mean, At the end of the day, we are seeing issues with installations every single day. We do hear about them. Most of them are minor. Most of them are minor, but there is a significant minority of issues that come through, and I think more so, frankly, on heat pumps than solar. We're further down the track in terms of solar PV and the maturity of the market, if I can use that. I don't mean that in an offensive way, but so there needs to be a industry standard. I mean, when we went out and asked installers, and it was a blind research program we did ahead of our consultation, and thank you for those who took part in that. They didn't know they were talking to MCS. So what they said was, we like the idea of there being a single standard in the market, written by industry for industry. Yep, tick. But we don't like that MCS thing. That doesn't quite work. So we need a scheme that's responsive to make sure the cowboys are taken out quicker than they are today. And that is my ambition. So, if MCS is in the same form in 50 years' time, we'll have failed. What we need to do is raise the bar constantly, get the quality there. And MCS's mission is to give confidence to consumers in what we call homegrown energy. And once that confidence comes, there'll be more business for installers like Emma. We want people to want heat pumps, and they're still at a lowish level, but growing rapidly. Solar is much more mature, and there's a lot more. About 80% of the installs under MCS are solar, and I'd love that equation to sort of change as we electrify heat. So we got to do that. So yeah.
So will you actually have powers to kind of stop these rogue cowboys kind of flipping the business into a new business and setting up again? Kind of what's going on right now,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. So what should be happening now is that we're trapping that. So the current scheme isn't doing that well, and that's because there are too many bodies involved and they don't talk to each other. So if the one point of contact is MCS, and under the new scheme, essentially it's in two halves. So you get certified through your chosen certification body, and they're interested in your certification, your compliance to that. MCS then on the other side is looking at how you're managing your relationship with your customer, and we'll have a simple customer commitment that you'll have to honor. A really simple a simple document you must comply with. So, and we've been doing this behind the scenes, removing licenses from contractors, holding them to account until they can evidence delivered quality. So we're ready for this. So come January, if we're hearing that you might be great, you've been certified, but actually complaints are flooding in and you're not delivering for customers, we will suspend you. Absolutely, we'll do that, but we'll work with you to get it right. And then if you don't get it right, you'll be off the scheme.
But what about all those customers that they're with a poor system?
Yeah, so
Well, that's okay, because at the moment we've got workmanship warranty guarantee insurance, haven't we, Ian?
Which just pay out all the time.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's
I've
what
heard that
happens.
too, yeah.
Isn't it?
It's a pincer movement. So, MCS also asked consumers what they thought about insurance-backed guarantees. So let's just get that out there. So we published an assessment of our experience and consumers' experience of the current crop of insurance-backed guarantees, and unfortunately, there's no surprise. You know what the answer is. The problem here is that consumers hear the word guarantee and assume something that isn't true. And so what we are going to do under the new scheme is we will issue a standard, because we're good at that. We're going to issue a standard for financial protections. And so that won't be just a cease to trade, highly caveated policy that might not help you, or may not help you get remediation of your problems. So that is part of the new MCS. We will prescribe what that is, and we'll approve financial products that are adequate, actually deliver protection, real protection, not just line the pockets of an insurance company.
That sounds like it's all going to be more expensive for us, Ian. You know, there's got to be a catch.
Goodness me.
Always a catch.
I mean, we consumer protection and doing it right. I wouldn't accept that's more expensive. I think that should be at the heart. You know, you want to satisfy consumers, but we also need to protect them adequately. And we would argue that the new MCS in its total form represents great consumer protection. So, you know, the working parts of MCS have got to help an installer be the best they can be, take pride in their work. The vast majority do.
Just customer service, right?
Yeah, and delivering on your promises and following the standard. I mean, you can make it sound simple, but it isn't. But I know it isn't, because it's a sophisticated installation, isn't it? It's a design challenge, an install challenge. It's a consumer handover challenge. And I think, you know, the gas industry coming into this sector maybe worry about that. But once you've got those things in place, and MCS should be helping you do that, then yeah, we should never hear. I don't want to hear about installers. I don't want to hear about them. I want to celebrate some of the great work they do. I want to focus our attention on those that aren't doing great work.
Good.
So no more one size fits all, and that has been a problem. So, you know, and installers complain to me saying, well, my assessment is the same as somebody who's got 100, 200, 500 employees. Well, I'm doing far more installs than I am. So this is the language. You need it to be commensurate, the size and complexity of your MCS related activity. So it needs to be relevant, helpful, but appropriate to your scenario. And that's what we're building in.
I'm going to ask some questions. Anybody in the crowd got any questions? Well, I'm sure Emma might have a few more to add first. But
No, turn the mic off.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Anybody got a question you'd like to ask?
I mean, I would say this is your chance. Please, you know, a harder the better. That sounds odd.
Okay, so it's about assessments. And so going back to when we first came MCS certified, the assessment obviously wasn't carried out by MCS, it was carried out by our certification, an assessor through our certification body. I've got two questions. So come January, is that being taken in-house? So it'll be an MCS assessor. And then the second part of the question is, will the assessment be more on the technical install, so the quality of the install, and less on the paperwork? And if so, how do we know that the assessor is well qualified? Because personally, I think they were great at checking the paperwork, less on the install, the quality of the install.
Yeah, I mean, great question. But to answer the first part of that, MCS creates a market for certification. We've got 8. You can choose from 8 different certification bodies for you. You can choose which one you go to. They're all following our prescription, though, under the new scheme of what is being assessed. So the second part of your question, we are prescribing that assessment. So I recognise that depending on your assessor's background, the CB, the certification body you've chosen, that is different. You get a different experience. And as a standards organisation, that's intolerable. We have to have consistency. So we are setting what the assessor comes and looks at, and it will be primarily about delivered quality. So sampling installations. I think there's been a behaviour around this because as a market that's been growing, maybe the CBs haven't had enough business. So what they tend to do is do your ISO 9001 type paperwork in the office. I'm a bit derogatory about this, I'm afraid, because having run a CB, I know what it's like. It's tea and biscuits, let's have a look at your paperwork. And then you go and have a look at an installation that's a short drive time away. No. So what we want them to do now is sample installations in an area, not really come to your office unless they have to. I'd rather they turn up and spend most of their time looking at delivered quality. Have I said that many times now, haven't I? Yeah. Underline red. So so it's all about that. And if you haven't delivered quality, we want to know why. And we want to help you deliver quality. So still certification bodies, but to our recipe.
Hi there, yeah. So
Ian, I watched your talk on the Valence stage a couple of days ago as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned was that all MCS installers are going to be risk rated. So looking backwards, let's see what their standards are. If they're really high, then low risk rating for the consumer, fantastic. But you also mentioned that all new installers would automatically go into a medium risk rating, which is fine internally, right? But you also said that would be set for 2 years. So is that risk rating going to be visible to the consumer?
No, absolutely
Thank God for
not.
that.
No. So this is our relationship with you, and it will be a more direct relationship. So yes, we feel at the moment, and feedback, we're looking for feedback when the new scheme goes live, but we feel at the moment, we don't know anything about you. We need about 2 years worth of data to determine whether you're an enhanced level of risk, and therefore you need to attract more assessments, get more support. That's the positive language. Well, let's be honest, if you're poor delivery, you're going to get more assessment, or it's reduced. So after 2 years, you've got a great opportunity to go, let's reduce it. And I think we're being very open with you. We're going to set that quality risk model, which will be the same across the entirety of MCS, and that will learn over time. So right on day one, we've got so much data we can use, we want more. So, that we might get into things like machine learning and AI, because we might think we understand where risk of non-compliance is based on your history, if history is a predictor of future performance. We also want to offer you ways to reduce your risk. So what, as well as doing great installs, what can I do as an installer to get my assessment burden down? And we won't have that on day one, but we'll build that. So won't be visible to consumers, absolutely not. And we will jump on any installer that says, I'm reduced, aren't I better? No. That won't be allowed.
Great, thank you.
I'm sure Chris has got something to say.
Hi, Chris.
How you mentioned supporting installers if they get stuff wrong. How do you go about that if you've got a fundamental design flaw in the system that's not been put right? How do we know the assessors can actually help them get it right? I've got a couple of installs I can show you where they've been and changed it and it's still completely wrong.
Yeah, so under the new MCS, your certification body will obviously come and do an assessment and see on that particular install. It's a moment in time, of course. They're looking at it now. If there's a complaint with an installation, that'll be MCS. We have a growing number of assessors who are able to come to site. And the missing ingredient with problem installations and then fixes that aren't real fixes, that aren't solving the problem, is that today we're not going to site fast enough. So we don't diagnose the problem early with the installer to say, this isn't good enough. The best installers who, everybody has an off day, don't they? The best installers I talk to go, yeah, didn't get that right, we're fixing it. But importantly, how are you going to stop that happening again? And that might do a heat geek course or whatever is required to lift your quality, your delivered quality. So the new MCS and this team has been working now for over a year and growing. Some of them are here today. We will go to site. We will look at the install that's the subject of a complaint. So we're not going to wait for the certification body to do your next assessment, because that consumer needs their install working.
In terms of the certification bodies, yes, she's prescribing an assessment, which is fantastic. Is MCS working with them to upskill those people who are going to be assessing? Every single person here will have a story about a G3 tape measure and a D1, D2 and a walkaway. So if you're asking them more technical questions than that, are you providing those certification body assessors with the relevant technical knowledge? And in the event that one of them decides something's wrong with my install that we don't think is wrong, who's going to arbitrate that?
Yeah, I mean, a great question. The first step, though, was to get a standard assessment criteria that isn't then influenced by, I don't know why I'm looking at you on that, but it isn't then influenced by the assessor and what they know. So that was step one, and we're there with that. You're right, we really would like to do like an assessor academy. Assessor academy, you heard it here first. So your assessor may not know as much as you know, may not know, but at least they know what to look for, and they can assess against it. The superhero assessor that knows everything about electrical, wet heating systems, can do your solar, they just don't exist. They don't exist, so that's why we're prescribing what they look for, and we've been testing that with our own team to understand whether that does constitute delivered quality or not. My promise is that this will evolve. This will evolve. So as we understand the problems we're finding in the field, we will change the assessment criteria. It will evolve. So on day one, it'll be something we're working with. We'll share what's in it with you, but then that will change over time. So we'll be working with our certification bodies, and we do have great working relationships with our certification bodies, and they are behind this change. They are actually very supportive of this, and we'll be helping them make sure their assessors are fully briefed. We'll be providing training material, guidance, because they're taking our brand to you. So we want it to be consistent with our values, and that's about integrity, doing the right thing. So yeah, we'll be working with our certification bodies, but on day one we won't have an assessor academy, but wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, it would.
Hi.
Ken Gordon from Ground Source Heat Pump Association. In the current MCS certification scheme, you've separated design from installation. What will happen in MCS 2.0? Will there still be that separation? And if so, how do you get your boots on the ground in the design notes?
Yeah, understand the question. Yes, yeah, thanks, Ken. So the who sets the standards inside MCS, I think it is me just worth emphasizing that it's not me and it's not my team. The MCS standards are written by industry, for industry, so we have technical working groups. And a little while ago, the technical working group that is associated with heat pumps decided to split the standard between design and install. And one of the motivations was that one designer can work with many installers. Wouldn't that open the door for gas engineers to come in who want to follow someone else's design and then install a heat pump? That is now due a review. Has that worked? Is the market responding well to that? Do we need to put them back together? But ultimately, it's the technical working groups, and you and your members sit on those working groups, and we'll be guided by that. So short answer is on day one, it'll still be a D, design, and an I separate. Most installers go for both. They become D and I, but see what the technical working group decide to do. They might put them back together. So sorry, I can't really, yeah.
Hello. Hey, I want to ask a question that's a bit of a follow-on from that last one. Repair and maintenance engineers probably don't do installs. So how are they going to be assessed?
Yeah, I mean, we're only assessing the installation, the delivered quality installation. We don't do repair, maintenance. We don't have standards for those, so we can't assess against them, if I'm understanding what you mean. So our scheme is about product certification and its installation. Am I misunderstanding you? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but the point is, as the business grows, you will have companies doing installs, and you'll probably have companies doing maintenance and servicing.
Yes.
And if you're going to request that that's done by an MCS engineer, that's not necessarily going to work for those companies?
No, and let me be clear that now and in the future, certainly or in January, we don't provide standards for maintenance and repair. If the industry require that, we would respond to that. I think maybe the link here is this new customer commitment. We want we know that promises are being made to customers about the lifetime of their solar PV or their heat pump, and we want to see that honoured over time. So your commitment to your customer is that, or we'll be looking for that. But right now we don't require a repairer to be an MCS certified contractor. You know, I'd agree with you though, that feels like something that would evolve, we should evolve into that. So, yes. Thought, I won't forget.
I'm not sure if this is going to be a bit controversial, but the...
What? We're doing controversial. We are
Yeah.
doing controversial.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Well, so when we first became MCS certified, if I'm totally honest, it was purely so we could offer the bus grant. So we wanted to take advantage of the financial incentives. And I'm guessing your numbers have grown possibly because of that as well. You may agree or disagree. What happens if that goes? What's going to happen to MCS? What's going to happen to your numbers? I'm sure you've probably thought about that.
You know what I have? No, I have. Yeah, I mean, I often say MCS isn't just for Christmas. So, yeah, there are government incentives that require MCS. It's public money, and policymakers put their trust in the scheme and are behind what's coming in January to protect the public purse. So, however, what we're seeing in the solar PV market, we've had the solar coaster of 10 years ago and the feed-in tariff, and now, yes, there are market incentives for solar PV, but the majority of people joining MCS today are joining it for solar, and there isn't a government incentive that requires you to be MCS. So, you know, from my point of view, I want it to be the industry's mark of quality. I want you to feel like we're working with you in partnership. That's why I'm using this language, and that's what the new MCS will be. So, you know, if you feel invested in it, because it's your governing body, your quality scheme, and we do take a lot of guidance from installers, some of which might be up here and out there, who would tell us what's good and bad about the scheme, and we hopefully do listen to that. I want you to think of your mark of quality, irrespective of government incentive. So that's the future. Because we ain't got any money, have we, apparently? There's no money in the offers anymore for public funding.
Unless anybody else has got a question, I've got just one last one.
This is going to be a killer.
Time's up.
Yeah, well,
Come on,
no.
Em. Come on.
MCS or equivalent. Answer the rumours that there's an or equivalent coming on the line from somewhere.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you. There isn't an equivalent MCS. I mean, the MCS and equivalent is a legislation notation. I do know what you're talking about. Frankly, my opinion is, and you would expect me to say this probably, but in all the industries I've worked in, my background is standards and certification. It makes no sense to have competing standards. No sense whatsoever, because what takes precedence? Consumers get confused. Worse still, installers don't know what to do. So there's already competition in MCS. One standard. Over 16 years, we've developed our standards with help of industry. You've got a choice of 8 certification bodies of how that's applied. So, you know, the money that people talk about, it's not all of it's not coming to MCS. A small proportion is to maintain standards, maintain the help desk we run. That's what the money is paid. That's what MCS does, and we're charity owned. You know, so if we do make a surplus, it gets invested back in the sector. For example, the new low carbon heating technician apprenticeship developed by MCS with help from great installers. So I think it's a step backwards, frankly, and we'll see what happens. But single standard, that's what most industries have. We need to make it more accessible, and that's what January is about.
Cool. Thank you very much, Ian and Emma. That brings our session to a close. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.